Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This be a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm gonna talk about the series premiere of Gyeongseong Creature. Great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So the opening seems to indicate it's like a military experiment place where they're running kind of what seems like, and what the nature of the show seems to be like a supernatural experiment they're running. I don't know if there's any correlation with, because around, obviously this is during World War II, so I don't know if World War I'm not good with dates and stuff, so I know World War II ends in 1945, but I don't know because it's the story's taking place mainly like in March of 1945. And so I don't know if World War II is over yet. We do hear some of the stuff about what's happening in Japan, and I feel like the end of World War II would have been an element of Korea's circumstances at the end of the war. So I'd assume things being what they are in Korea currently, South Korea specifically, that it would be, it's still kind of maybe World War II still happening, because they do talk about Japan getting bombed, specifically Tokyo, because I was like, had the nuclear bombs happen yet, but it's like, no, they specifically talk about Tokyo being bombed, so it's not Hiroshima or anything. So it's like that hasn't happened yet in the war. So probably if I watch Oppenheimer, I would know specifically the dates and time frames. But my point of going on a little bit of that diatribe is, I'm curious, does this correlate with the Nazis in particular? I don't know anyone else was doing it, but around this time in the world, Nazis were doing, like, I think Hitler did do, like, he was interested in the occult and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if this is a correlation in that in some shape or form. Because Japan was part of the Axis power. I think Korea was probably forced to be part of the Axis power at the time. Do correct me if I'm wrong. Once again, cannot stress this enough. I do not know enough about Korean history, and two, I'm ignorant in history in a lot of capacity. So if I do get something wrong, do correct me and do forgive my ignorance. But that's why I was like, why are they doing these experiments? Because we see they're doing it, but we don't really know why. But the time frame makes me seem like this is something they're doing to maybe swing the war. Because that's why I'm wondering, like, the people in charge are, like, it's the Japanese kind of operating on a lot of stuff. So I'm curious. They're just using, I mean, sadly, what was done to Korean people during that time that Japan had control over them. It's like, that's why these women are disappearing later on, because they're the people that can just disappear without much fuss, because Japan has a lot of control and say over a lot of stuff. So because I'm unclear on whether, I can't tell. I'm not sure if those are Korean, like, soldiers who are doing this, like taking the women and stuff, or these Japanese soldiers, like, whatever the case may be. There is an effort to create something, but the whole thing is they had to keep it secret. Like, it's like, oh, we have 48 hours to retreat, so they burned everything. They burned the experimented corpses. They burned the bodies of everything they experimented on, killed any subjects who would have been alive, destroyed every file that they can. They basically blew the place up. There was at least one active subject that seemed to be a monster that was hidden behind that door, but they made sure to burn everything to the ground, took every, like, serums, and because they have like 12 of, like, those little, the things that seem to be the cause of, like, this monsterization process for these people. There's, like, I think 12 of those, and they have a serum. I'd assume those are two, because they said one thing and then they said, like, serum, so there's two different things. They have 12 of one and only 8 of another. It's like, well, what about the other two? I forgot what they said happened to it, but either way, they had to bail the facility, and we come to Gyeongseong is where they're relocating, hence where all the crux of all this is happening, and it's March. I looked it up because I was curious. I was like, well, how when did Korea kind of push Japan out to some extent, like, and it's like I said, this is taking place in March. Japan, or at least Korea, fought back against Japan and was able, I think, finally push them out around August of 45. So it's still a couple months away of still being under Japan's rule. But yeah, we meet our main protagonist, Jang, who is kind of, it gives me like Great Gatsby vibes, kind of, and I think that's kind of like a little bit of the story they're going for there too. I mean, it's like any story of kind of that rags to riches, like you started off poor and you did whatever you had to do, scraped, scammed, any shady stuff you had to do just to get by, and that's Jang. He's kind of known as Mr. Omniscient of Gyeongseong. Um, really quickly, the actor who plays Jang, his name is Park Seon Joon. Uh, I looked it up because I kind of felt like I recognized him, but I wasn't quite sure. The only thing in his filmography I've seen is The Marvels. He's Prince Yan. Spoilers. Carol's official yet kind of unofficial husband. I was like, oh, that's so dope because that's actually his first. That's his Hollywood debut because obviously everything else he's done has been a South Korean production. So I just thought that was so interesting. I was like, oh, I thought that was. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. But nevertheless, he's kind of like, hey, you need something, I can get it for you, I can do a lot. And he ends up getting interrogated by this, I think it's a commanding officer in the military named Ishikawa. Specifically, he's Japanese. And he claims that Jang was having an affair with his wife, but that was all. I guess his plan was, if I find out you're having an affair with my wife, I can use that as an excuse to get you to do what I need you to do. But Jang saw through it. It's like, right, if you're insinuating I'm the one who had an affair with your wife, then you're kind of putting her morals into question. You're kind of defiling her name as well by doing that. So he kind of had to keep his mouth shut. But it's like, right, this was all about his mistress, which that was so interesting because that's why I'm like, it had to be a ploy because he wanted to try and force your hand. And now he's still doing it. But it's like, right, instead of, going down that route because you act so cool, calm, and collected, because either I'm assuming like he does seem like he could be the debaucherous type, but it feels like he's implying like no, nothing ever happened between him and Ishikawa's wife, but it was just like, yeah, it was just a excuse to set this all in motion. But it's like he needs Jang to find his mistress Myungjae, and it's like the irony behind it of like, yeah, you're accusing me of cheating on your wife, having an affair with your wife when you're cheating on her with your mistress, who we also find out is pregnant. So it's all kinds of drama mixed up into that. The thing is, what I think so interesting is the word's already out, especially when Jang like kind of has no choice but to take the job because it's like, oh, you either find her before the cherry blossoms fall, or I'm going to take everything from you, basically your riches, your business, the golden treasure, all of that, it's going to be mine. And it's like, obviously it means everything to Jang because it's like, right, once you've scrapped so hard to get money, of course you're not going to be so willing to let it go. So he reluctantly goes like, yeah, I guess I have to take it. But he's on quite the timetable and he even tells his employees, we're screwed. Because it's like, yeah, if we took time to try and sell everything, the business and everything, how long would that take? A month? And it's like, that probably would, that time we might as well be spent trying to actually find this woman. But it's like, from the very beginning, Jang knew like, this guy has a whole bunch of resources of his own. If he can't find her and has to go through the trouble of getting me, then it must be some deep stuff that she's mixed up. Like something big is going down. Because one of his employees does, I think it's what's his name, Biamo, like who talks about some women that have been disappearing recently from different regions. So it's all tied in together. Those are test subjects, people that might not be missed. I guess they just picked them. They had the unfortunateness of, because she's probably, Myung-jae is probably not anyone of importance. Only problem is they ended up picking someone that was important to a high-ranking Japanese military official. So that kind of made that mistake. But I think they end up picking people, just like any experimental situation of, let's take people that no one's going to miss, whether these are women off the street or just people that have no family or no one that would really miss them. Because the women are known as being missing, but like there's no trail to follow behind them. It's like no one would know they're mixed up in all of this. I mean, plus we know there's already that other facility that they destroyed at the beginning of the episode. So some of those missing women, I mean, there's people in general, but I think a lot of women in particular have gone missing. But we do see they've experimented on men, but it seemed like most of the subjects we saw later on in the episode ended up being women. So I don't know. Maybe in this area, it's a little easier to make women disappear than it is men without drawing too much attention. Maybe that's the correlation there. But the reason why I was also bringing that all up, but my point was like, so many people knew the position that Jang was in because gossip spread like crazy in Gyeongseong. It's like, oh, Ishikawa's mistress. Everyone specifically uses that word. So it's like, it's gotten back to his wife, but she probably hasn't said anything about it because it's like, oh, he's working on missing person case. Could we have cut? Because like, oh, that's what he had told one of his subordinates to tell his wife. And she's like, oh, okay. And we see that like distant look on her face, like she knows what this is really about. Either she's thinking like, oh, he's making up an excuse to go see that woman, or maybe she knows exactly what this missing case entails, that it is involving said mistress. So, but yeah, Jang is trying to get, what was it, one of his subordinates, one of his employees, Wall, to secretly sell some stuff off the side so they can boost up their money, while trying to do that without Ishikawa finding out, because one of the employees and Miss Null end up kind of having this back and forth, because he's like, right, why don't we just move or whatever? But her point was, the fact is that Jang probably has already thought about it, because if we try to sell this business, that will immediately fly around that, oh, that must mean that Jang will be leaving Gyeongseong. He's too much of a celebrity. Like, everyone's going to be in the know, and it's going to spread like wildfire. And eventually, it will get back to Ishikawa, meaning he knows that Jang is trying to run. He already has eyes on. He already literally has people posted up outside of the Golden Treasure to like follow his every move. So it's like, yeah, you're stuck in a rock and a hard place. So trying to secretly on the low get some money, while also making sure to actually do this job, because the money's supposed to be a backup plan in case they need to run. Then they'll have the funds necessary to do it. Kind of cut bait and bail immediately, cut bait and run immediately when given the opportunity. But they spread out trying to gather as much information as they can. At the same time, we have what we later on find out is a father and daughter. I'm probably going to butcher it. It's like Chaeok, so I don't know if it's like Chaeok. She, and like I said, we found out is her father, are here looking for a painter. What's his name? Sachimoto, which I was thinking, like, is that supposed to be like maybe their brother? Because she brings up later on her mom's missing, so I'm wondering her mom must be one of the people too that was kidnapped. And so could we find out later on that Sachimoto is like an artist? He's a painter. I guess they probably don't want to keep any written records, but they're keeping artistic records to kind of showcase the progress of all the experiments they're running, I guess. Like, I wonder, does he know his mom's potentially one of those subjects? I mean, maybe she's one of the ones that's already died, or maybe that's how he's protecting his mom by working for them, but not knowing that something's already happened to her. That's why I'm like, I say mom because I kept being like, that might be their brother. I wonder, like, could there? I mean, it could easily be the case that like the mom could, because well, his name is, because I'm assuming it's like, yeah, he's supposed to be Japanese, so I'm like, I wondered, is their mom Japanese then? Because she was saying like, oh yeah, like he hasn't been here long, so he's got like a Joseon, like he doesn't really have like a Joseon accent, like he doesn't speak the language fluently, like, so it seems like he might be but it's like, if they were family, wouldn't he already know Korean? But it might not necessarily be a language thing, it might more specifically be a dialect thing, because obviously languages in different countries do like change from region to region. The dialect is so different and so distinct, it's practically its own language. They're like different countries, like different regions in a country having different dialects can be like a different language. Once again, that's my understanding, but maybe I'm wrong in that capacity. So maybe that's what they're kind of implying, of like, yes, he can speak Korean, but maybe this specific like Joseon dialect he doesn't really have nailed down because he's new to the area. I love that whole situation where she bought the bike off that guy. He thought he was like robbing her blind, but she got a new motorcycle, a gas tank, some goggles, and some because I think she already had the tools necessary to fix it up. And yeah, she got it away. Like, she only had to pay like 50 more won than she initially planned to, because he was asking for 300 and then dropped it down to 280. So she got all that for 250. So kind of walked away from a steal. She kind of haggled you out of that. But yeah, he thought, he was like, yeah, the bike doesn't even work. It's been there for years. All this weather and the elements have kind of gotten to it. And it's like, nope, the bike started up. So she's keeping an eye on Jane because her and her dad need his help. It's like, he is someone that is well connected and he's supposed to be Mr. Omniscient. So she follows him, which I love that he approached the driver. He's like, dude, I got to go to this place. You're supposed to keep an eye on me. So why don't we just like skip all the BS and just kind of make this super convenient for both of us? So you drive me there, but he snuck away. Kind of, an unnecessary move because you're causing yourself more trouble. Why even leave the note calling him an idiot? Why don't you just like not let him keep sitting there for hours and hours thinking everything's okay? But I guess it's just like he's such a cocky bastard that he's just like, no, 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 I have to like stick the middle finger to you, you know. But he had his encounter with Jae and turned into a tussle. To be fair, he did have a gun pointed to her head, but she did kind of. It's like, right, you were following him. You weren't too obvious about what you wanted. I think she was like sussing him out to be like, is he really the person I think he is? That he's, or at least claimed to be notoriety wise. And for her, they end up in a tussle, and he stops partway through. I think it's kind of that K-drama of it all, of like the hat flew off and her hair gets revealed, and he's like, wow, captivated by her, but they still tussle a little bit. She's well trained as a fighter. He does decent at kind of defending himself, but you can tell he's not nearly as well trained as her, I guess, considering their jobs as sleuths, that they kind of probably have to go find themselves periodically in rough and tumble situations. So it's like you gotta have to learn how to defend yourself. But when it's all said and done, she questions him about the Sakimoto, but he's like, no, I deal in high-level information. A painter would be low-level information, so I wouldn't have anything like that. And obviously, he kind of bad-mouthed her mom and this person because he was like, oh, maybe she ran off with him having an affair, and that because it's like, don't like say something so disrespectful about my mom. Once again, I don't know what Sakimoto like I said, I kept being like, I said Sachimoto. I kept being like, brother. I'm assuming, and that's a pure assumption on my part, but I don't know what the correlation and connection is between them enough to make them go this far for him. So why else would you go this far for someone looking for a particular painter if it wasn't for like a family thing? But I don't know. Because he's the lead to their mom. Maybe they found out about the paintings. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he has no like connection to him. Maybe he isn't family. But maybe they found out that maybe they found one of his photos of their mom, because he paints and draws pictures of the test subjects that the military, these people want him to draw. And so maybe they came across a photo of Jaeok's mom, and maybe that's what they're like, right, this artist is very particular, so they ended up tracking him down. So they need to track him down to try and find her mom. Like I said, her mom might still be alive, or she might be gone. Who knows? I mean, which kind of fits with their jobs description. They bring people back, whether they're dead or alive. They will even bring the bones back. And considering this is something so important to them, because it's someone that they love and care about, so... And obviously she spends the entire time kind of like, ends up... I keep saying Che, like, I don't know if that's how you properly pronounce it or not. Like I said, it's C-H-A-E. Not like it's like... Maybe like the C is silent and it's just kind of like hey. I don't know. I'm going to just keep referring to her as like Che for now. But she kind of was bad-mouthing Zhang because, once again, you're all about money. You're kind of a trash person. He's like, yeah, I am. I was a trash person. I continue to be a trash person. That's what made me who I am today. So he kind of took that conversation in stride. But when he went to talk to his buddy later on, it really got under his skin, because his buddy, who Kwon Jun Taek, if I'm not mistaken, is the guy he went to visit. Which I was like... That actor, I was like, why does he look so familiar? The actor's name is Wee Han Jun, if I'm not mistaken. And I saw that, I was like, why does he look so familiar? So I looked through his filmography. I saw that he was in Squid Game. I was like, who are you in Squid Game? Oh, he was the detective in Squid Game. If you're familiar with Squid Game, I was like, that? I was like, of course. I kept staring. I was like, why do you look so freaking familiar, dude? And that's what I recognized him from. Because basically he was criticizing Zhang for not contributing money to like the independent side. It seems like he leads kind of an underground independent party. Because obviously there's like this underground resistance trying to get Korea to kind of fight back against the Japanese occupation. And for Zhang, it's like, all I've known is Japanese rule, which makes perfect sense. The character's most likely supposed to be like in its late 20s or early 30s. The actor himself is in his early 30s. No, he's 35, so mid 30s. But still, that correlates with Korea. Korea was under Japanese occupation at least for 35 years. So for that to be all you've known, and it's like, don't tell me to talk about like what this place was, like, to have pride in this country. This version of the country is all I've ever known, and you want to criticize me. He's like, you want to insult me, that's fine, don't insult my money, because he's like, what would that money mean to you? At the end of the day, it'll turn to dust. It's kind of that thing of, all the money won't do you anything, why not put it towards good, like helping build up this resistance and support your comrades in trying to, our country. But it's like, his patriotism is kind of like, yeah, you're supposed to be more patriot, but it's like, no, don't insult my money, because it's like, yes, I'm a dog, and I worked like a dog. I did whatever I had to do like a dog to scrape by to get this money, and I want to spend it like a dog. It's my money, so let me spend it how I want to, because I've earned this money. And like I said, it's just like that rags to riches situation. That it's like, when you've been at the bottom, you will scrap and scrape to get everything you want. And it's like, at the top, was it all worth it? In the grand scheme of things, yes, because it's better than what you came from, but it doesn't erase all that you went through. Who you were to get to where you are now doesn't disappear. That person who scrapped and scraped to get to the top is still there. So, kind of walked away from that situation. Because he's a guy that's kind of a little bit of a philanderer himself. That's why, well, apparently he even said, like, oh, me and Myungjae, like, hooked up, and while she was in my arms, she told me she loved me, but yeah, eventually Ishikawa ended up getting his hands on her, and it's like, yeah, I heard that she was missing, but I had nothing to do with it. I don't know anything about why she went missing. So, all the while that's happening, Zhang ends up going back to the office and ends up meeting our sleuths, and obviously him and Che are not on good terms because of their previous encounter. And I love that he was like, all I said was that she had beautiful eyes, and her father didn't appreciate it. He was like, okay, good, we'll end our business here, because they've had like 200 cases. They found about 140 of those people, maybe some cases alive, others dead, but they've still completed those cases. So pretty decent batting average. I mean, obviously you wish it was a little higher, but come on. That's 70%. That's, like I said, not great, but still pretty good batting average to some extent. So, but obviously Che, like, doesn't want to operate with Mr. Trash, as she calls him. But it's like, right, you want to find Sachimoto, then I will find out whatever I can about him if you can help me find Myungjae. And it's like, how long do we have? It's like, until the cherry blossoms fall, because, it's like, are you a good man or a bad man? He's like, I'm a man who will do anything to survive. And that was just enough for Che's father, because it's like, right, if you're this desperate, you'll follow through, because you need us to follow through as well, because desperation can sometimes be enough to tell you about a man. I think in her father's eyes, it's like, well, it's enough to tell me that you will do what's in your best interest, and helping us will mean us helping you, and that will get you out of, or at least help get you out of the predicament you're in, especially considering you're running out of time because the cherry blossoms are already blooming. So that, escalates the timetable even more, so that process has already started. But on the other side of things, like I said, the science experiments have already kind of picked up again, and we see Myungja, and she hasn't been chosen, but someone from her cell has. The cell that she's in, so her and another woman, and then they get fed. I was like, well, obviously something's wrong with the food, but like, what could it be? But then it's the water specifically, because the little creatures that potentially turn them into monsters or whatever is in there, and so they end up tainting them, and the woman in the first room starts going crazy. It's like, oh, should we give her the serum? I guess the serum stabilizes the transformation to some extent. Who knows? Because they didn't give her the serum, and she's like going crazy. But the other woman in room 2, she's kind of quiet. She's obviously going through it, but not to the same extent as the woman in room 1. And so when Sachimoto comes to draw, we see, because they specifically said the woman in room 2. I'm assuming like they put them in both in the same cell, and maybe like, because I think the woman that was dead, like laying down, was supposed to be the woman from room 1. So either she had killed herself, or the woman that was transformed into the monster from room 2, like she was put in the same room and ended up killing her. I'm assuming that's what it is, because there's the body on the ground, and then there's the woman above. Once again, the woman in room 2 is the one that was given the serum. So I guess it stabilizes the transformation, because if you're already acting a little wild, it's already being resistant in your body. So why waste the serum on a failed subject? But if like, because I guess it's too much they're trying to find the breaking point, because there's a threshold of how much the human body can take it. If it's already eating away at you, maybe you're not mentally strong enough, or whatever the case may be, but you're already kind of defective. But if you're able to handle it in stride without kind of losing your mind, then we'll give you the serum to kind of see if we can stabilize it. Once again, I don't know if this is a full-blown super soldier type of, like, science fictional occult approach that they're taking, or like, if that's what they're aiming for. Like, I mean, in the time frame, I don't see what else you might be aiming for. What other reason these experiments would exist other than that? But maybe, I mean, rather than super soldiers, it's like monster. I mean, if you can have monsters under your control, it changes the landscape of warfare. Obviously, it's like it's a new form of weaponry that you get to use, and you kind of have a potentially not unending, but a pretty large, because for every one monster could be like 100 soldiers, and if you can make more and more people into monsters, it changes your whole the outlook of your army. So some very, very interesting developments. Kind of a nice start. I kind of wasn't expecting as much of the lighthearted element as we got in this episode. Not that it's a criticism or anything. I just wasn't expecting it, because I guess I was expecting it to kind of have like a darker tone all the way through. But maybe that's just kind of what I mean. Once again, I'm still new-ish to the world of K-dramas, so I think they span so many like tones and stuff like that across most things. Like there is always going to be a little like musical whimsy with some of the more lighthearted nature to it, but I guess it's also to offset the darker element to it. Also, to be fair, we're not in the thick of it yet. We're just at the start of it, so it's going to be a little while before things fully pop off. But I'm very excited to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good